test and to see if it could be relevant to share with our wider Flux community. So I hope that's okay with you. And we might be doing some screenshots here and there also just for, to kind of to share it with our extended community. So, yeah, the event today is going to start by doing a short presentation of what is Flux. I'm gonna pass it shortly to Afra and Oliver, that they are gonna explain you about all the different projects we've been working on, and we are working on also in the near future. And then we are gonna have a very brief short presentation by everyone in the audience, kind of like a speed dating style, like 1 minute each, just only saying your name, what you do, and just pretty much that. And then we're gonna start with the speakers. We have today 5 wonderful speakers. We got Graham Daniels from Addicted TV. We got Fayan Smith from October Collective. Dean Atberg from Ugly Duck. Also, we got Shane Clark from Computer Society and Laura Netz from Art Futura. So yeah, only I kind of forgot to introduce myself because I see so many familiar faces actually that I assume most of you know me, but for the ones that you don't, oh, I need to also admit, because I'm the only one that can admit people, so yes, excuse me. Okay. Yeah, my name is Maria Almena, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist, as well as curator and co-founder of Art in Flux. I'm also the creative director of a creative studio called Kimatic Studio, where we explore the intersection between interactive technology, live performance, and the human form. And you can see on the slide some images of my previous work. Yeah, I think that's it from me now. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Afra from Flux, who is going to share briefly a little bit of the history of Art in Flux. Enjoy the event. Oh, and I forgot to say about the chat. Yeah, so basically the chat, we are going to have an open chat where everyone can feel free to share any links of your work or any comments, any questions. When after each speaker, we are going to open for a Q&A. So feel free to drop them there or just wait until each speaker have finished and they just raise your hand or just say, and I will give you the turn to talk. Yeah, and then we are going to be sharing this chat, all the information and all the links that we collect on the chat. We'll be sharing them with everyone after the event, just so we, to remember all the things that have been talked to at this event. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Really excited to have another event. Very excited to hear the speakers speak tonight. My name's Afra Shemza. I'm one of the curators and founders of Flux, and I'm also an artist myself. So I work with geometry, abstraction, and light, and interactivity. So I combine traditional sculpting techniques with tech, basically, to create my pieces. So you can see some of my work there. Art in Flux, I'll just give you a little bit of an idea about Flux and where we came from, and we won't spend too long on this because I know a lot of you already know, but it's good just for the newbies to introduce you to what we do. So Art in Flux was founded by Maria Almena, Oliver Gingrich and myself in 2016 in Lights of Soho. And we created it because we felt like there wasn't really a place for artists working with technology to come together, discuss our ideas and kind of collaborate and exchange and create a new dialogue and a new platform as well for artists working with new media. So we've worked with many different artists over the years. You can see many different people here. And we kind of want to create a platform for new media artists. And we do this through curating and hosting a number of different types of events. So we run our Art in Flux socials, like this event. These are events where artists can come together, discuss creative ideas, projects, collaborate with each other, and generally get a good sort of a sense of community and networking between artists and organizations. We also run curated talks throughout the year, and these are often centered around Maria, Oliver, and my research interests, so things that really make us tick with our practice. We have 3 this year, and Oliver will talk a bit more about those when he speaks next. We also, in 2018, we started our annual exhibition called Art in Flux. And this is where we're able to bring our kind of internal discourses between artists to the greater public, and to invite the public to come and experience interactive exhibitions, installations, and experience kind of VR, interactive installations, and many, many more things. We recently have been working a lot more on creating workshops, and we're really excited to be able to bridge this kind of gap between art and technology and local communities, and try and make our type of work more accessible to a wider audience. So that's very exciting. I will, I have one more slide, apologies. So we also have worked with many amazing partners over the last few years. And as part of our remit, we really wanted to not only provide a platform for our artists to engage with the public, but also to engage with institutions as well. So we've been collaborating with the V&A, the National Gallery, the Royal College of Art, and many educational institutions as well, like Goldsmiths. I will now hand over to Oliver, who will talk to you a bit more about our Flux Virtual offering. Thanks.
Hi there. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Oliver Gingrich. I am also a media artist. I work with the art collective Analemma Group a lot on this idea of visual sound. I work with holographic projection, and yeah, I'm working on a number of collaborative projects. The Analemma Group, I've been part of for the last 10 years, initially as part of my PhD in an engineering doctorate in media arts. And it's actually an interesting project to look at in the context of networks, which we'll be discussing today. A project that we have currently on with the National Gallery X. It's an interactive piece that you can explore, and I'll post the link in the chat. Yeah, but now to talk about our virtual program. We were lucky to receive the Arts Council England emergency rescue package this year, which means that we're taking our practice entirely online for the next couple of months. And the social that we're having today is one of these formats that we're migrating together with these kind of curated talks that we're having, and yeah, also potentially our exhibitions. So the live is actually a new format that we're developing and that we're presenting for the first time this coming month, so the next month in July. And we actually have, yeah, our very first one planned. The idea is here to be a bit more performative and to have conversations between artists and researchers, and to create also a bit of a resource for other artists. So for these conversations to really become something that people can access later on if they want to learn about a specific subject. So they will be a bit more curated in a way. Yeah, and the larger talks that we're having 3 of them with our new partner, the National Gallery X. And the first one we just had, Gender Tag on gender and media art. The exhibition of this is still online, so there's an online exhibition that you can all access. Again, we're going to post a link in the chat. But yeah, it's been really successful for us. We had over 300 people signing up to it, and really good feedback from the National Gallery and from the audience. So we're quite happy to keep this format going while we're focusing really specifically on one subject. And the next one of these talks will be by Maria in September, and then by Afra in November, on the themes of media and transformational power of media arts in the case of Maria, and on heritage, and kind of well, actually more is a cultural heritage in the case of Afra. Yeah, so the next talk that we have next month is the live talk, which is about new heritage. So it's a bit different to cultural heritage here. The focus is how we as media artists can access, create new routes of access to cultural heritage, how we can create contemporary heritage as well. And also we're inviting some institutions to talk about how they contribute by kind of preserving some of these media artists. So we'll have a speaker from the Tate, and Ali Husseini from the National Gallery is going to join us as well. So it should be a really good one, and it's in July, on the 23rd of July, I think, not on the 29th. Sorry, this was a typo. at 6 p.m. Yeah, I think this is it from me, and I'll hand back over to Maria.
Thank you, Oliver. It is, as you've seen, like, you know, it's been exciting to reinvent yourself as an artist. I think obviously we at first we were quite in shock to have to cancel all our physical events, but now moving, you know, all our events virtually have given us the opportunity to kind of reinvent ourselves, which is always a challenge, but a good challenge from the artistic point of view, I think. So yeah, today, networks. This was my turn to choose the theme for the next social. And actually, we have talked in the past about networks, because for us, it has been one of the key elements within our organization. We wanted to help people to network and to serve as a link for artists to connect with other organizations. But this time also wanted to give a particular angle on collaborative projects, as collaborative projects have been very important in my art practice. I've always been part of art collectives. I'm a big believer of the power of collaborative projects, and I think now more than ever we need to come together and to create, you know, kind of bigger, greater things for everyone. So I was really interested to hear about the speakers today, how they have, you know, their experience of you know, how to create a collaborative project, because it's really beautiful, but it does have many challenges also. And I guess when you are starting as a solo artist, it could be also intimidating, you know, how do you start to break the ice into approaching other people? Who do you approach? How do you select, you know, how do you find the right people to join your team? And there are things that I had to kind of like learn by myself, just by trial and error. Since I was in high school, that's when I created my first art collective. And so yeah, I felt it was an important time to pass on this knowledge. And to encourage people to do this more. That's why I decided to kind of focus in this particular theme this time. But before we go on to discussing this theme, I would like to kind of pass it on to all our audience. Now we currently got 29 people. So yeah, kind of like briefly 1 minute each to introduce themselves. Maybe I choose now. I will be choosing people. If everyone has their name, it should be easy. What about Suman? Suman, you've been here from the beginning. Hello. How are you? You are mute. Look, maybe I can unmute you.
Yeah, very busy. Just still delivering my digital media arts course.
Oh,
of course. Yeah.
Oh, Sue. Sorry, I said Suman, but Sue is fine. You go ahead, Sue, and then we get Suman later. Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
Accent.
No worries. Go ahead, Sue.
I'm the executive director of IZEA International. So IZEA in Montreal is going to be totally virtual. We're moving Barcelona a year later and Paris a year later after that. Okay. That's my 1 minute.
Exciting to hear that. Thank you, Sue. Suman, you gonna go next?
Yeah, I'm gonna go next. I'm excited to come to the talk. I don't really work with new media, but I'm interested in I'm interested in hearing what people have got to say. My work has mainly been, it started off about the partition of India, and it's gradually, during my MA, and it's gradually moved into looking at migration and the roots of migration and colonialism. And I mainly do it through printmaking. That's one of my prints behind me, called Fractured Earth.
Wonderful. Right, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
We have Nicola, Genetic Moo. Hi, Nicola.
Hello. Hi, yeah. So I'm Nicola, I'm in Genetic Moo. Hi. I'm a digital artist. I work with my partner, Tim Pickup, and we create immersive interactive environments. And since lockdown, I think now we're coming up to the 12th Micro World at Home, which is our live streamed event every Saturday afternoon between 2 and 4, where we collaborate with people. They send us films. We're doing a live performance this Saturday, the first one integrating it into the Micro World at Home. So it's 2 hours of fun, which David V.A. and Sean Clark are part of, I can see, and Jonathan Armour as well. And so join us on Saturday. Thank you.
Do you want to share the link on the chat, Nicola?
Yeah, I'll do that, sure. Yeah, this week, our theme this week is we're revisiting the world, the flesh and the devil, and we're on flesh this week, okay? So I'll share a link, and then if people are interested in participating, let us know.
All right, thank you. Yeah, just also for the late arrivals, if anyone wants to share any links, do share it on the chat, because then this document, we will be collecting all the links and all the conversations on the chat, and we'll be sharing it after the event with everyone that have registered. Okay, let's go with Clemens.
Hi everyone. Yes, I'm Clemens. I'm a dancer, designer, and a computational artist, and I work specifically on interactive performances and interactive installations where there's always an element of audience participation. And recently I've been working in kind of transferring my practice online, having interactive performances live streamed. And I've worked recently specifically on a performance called Strings, where the audience can interact with me directly and decide how I'm going to move through wearables, and they interact on the web interface on their side. So I'm kind of taking this into different places. I've been selected for festivals, so I have a way more positive things to say compared to the first online folk social where we're all very depressed.
Good news. Really happy for you. Share your link again. Also, I'm sure people would love to see some of your performance live. We got Graham from Computer Society, because we got two Graham, sorry.
Well, little old me. Right, okay.
Graham Pros.
Grandit Pros, co-chair EVA London with Nick Lambert and Jonathan Bowen. So we're not running in July this year for some curious reason. We are going to be running in November a little EVA online, which will probably have some of you involved in it in some way and another, but we hope to be back in the British Computer Arts Society next July with a bumper edition and possibly a show of some of the people who are in here tonight helping us out with some exhibits, but we'll come back to that one another time. Every other crazy thing I'm doing at the moment is I've got stuck on a committee of something called Photographers Pro United, and we are choosing 4 of the top British colleges that have graduates leaving this year, and we're trying to connect them up with people in the industry and mentor them over the next year. So that's a new little project of mine, which is sort of fun.
Thank you, Graham. Again, for the last arrival, so you know what is happening, we are just doing a very quick introduction of all the audience before we start to discuss tonight's theme. We are going to go for Malte. Yeah, am I saying it right? Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, it's okay. You pronounce it right. I'm a computer artist from Germany, and I'm doing mostly 3D stuff, something like that behind me. This is a hand cut out of a 3D composition and printings and things like that. So that's what I'm doing.
Great.
And they are mostly moving by certain rules, and this is moved by air pressure.
Wow, fascinating. Thank you. I'm gonna leave the speakers out of this because then you are all gonna be introducing yourself later on. David, I don't know your surname. David.
I'm French. Yeah, that's it. I'm a new player in this game. I'm a UBS user, and I like to work with homemade local internet televisions. So my closest collective, physical collective, is Furtherfield in Finsbury Park. So hopefully I should be doing some proposal to try to get some stuff going. That's it. That's my idea, and it will go very slow, but I'll keep doing it. Let's call it life.
Thank you. All the best with it, and do share the link on the chat for anyone that is interested. We got Harry Farmer. Hello.
Hi. So my name's not actually for Harry.
Yeah, I was like, that's it.
Sorry about that. So I am a filmmaker. I run a film company called Image Fiction Films, but we have we've got 2 interactive web-based projects in development at the moment, and yeah, looking for more people who are involved in that kind of space to collaborate with.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll share the link so everyone can check it out later. We got Leila.
Hi.
Hey.
My name is Leila. So I'm an artist, a performer, musician, and I have a vision of very synthetic performances, which I want to realize. And I just want to, I'm only starting off, and I want to know more about collaborations, about how to get into the right art environment. Currently, I'm in much doubt about education, whether I should get a degree or just be independently independent. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Rob Burnham.
Hiya. Yeah, my name's Rob. I'm a musician, producer. I work with Bayan, who's speaking tonight, and I've collaborated with October Collective on their last couple of projects as well.
Great. Pearl Young? Pearl Young?
Hello, I'm Pearl. I'm an artist working with holography. That's both with lasers and digital holograms. And I'm delighted to be here. I'm just about to start a network of women in holography, so it's perfect to see how you're running your network. So thank you.
Great. I've got I know of a female artist who is specialized in a holographic that I could definitely maybe connect you with, Elizabeth. So yeah, I'll remember that one. She's not here today with us, but she's part of our community.
Okay, cool.
Irene?
Hello. So I'm definitely not as cool as all of you. I'm just a uni student at Goldsmiths studying media and communications. And yeah, currently doing an internship with Art Influx, which is fun. That's it. Yeah.
Helping us. She's helping us. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go on page 2. Who do we have here? Ghislaine. Hello, Ghislaine.
Hello, hi, hey. I'm Ghislaine Boddington, and I'm from Body Data Space, and Dean, who is going to be talking later, I think, is also part of the collective. And we're a long-term collective since the early 90s, been working with telepresence and body technologies, making large-scale immersion works, and more recently I work in the area of what I call the Internet of Bodies. So I'm looking at how connectivity is working, particularly at this moment, as we all join together more, and cyborg culture as well. Dance sector originally.
Fascinating. Great to see you here. And also we got Jose. Hello, Jose. How are you?
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Jose. I'm really interested about how to bridge wisdom, especially ancient wisdom, into modern technologies. I like to explore the ritual as a technology, but also kind of like augmenting it with virtual and augmented realities. I also co-direct a society project called the Cyberdelic Society, and we explore intersection between technology, psychedelics, meditation, and spirituality.
Thank you. We got the Armor Studio. Are you there? Actually, I'm gonna go for the last one that has the video on. If you're gonna talk and introduce yourself, it'd be better if you switch on the video, guys. We got Martha Snooks.
Hi.
Hello, we got 3 of you.
Yeah, like 3 in 1. Basically, my name is Isabella Steinstatter. I'm an artist, and I also am part of October Collective, and I also work with Rob Burnham. So yeah, that's it. Yeah.
My name's Martha. I'm a student. I'm just here because, yeah, you guys are. So I'm sure it'll be interesting. So
I'm Amelia. I'm an actor and a model, and I've been working with Bella for a few years now. So I'm getting into the art scene. It's great. Yeah, love it.
Welcome, guys. Yeah, we got Alexandra.
Hi guys, great to see you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I'm not really using Zoom, to be honest. I'm an artist as well, work mainly with the video, photography, performance, trying to do multimedia as well. And I'm also a part of October Collective, and so also worked with Rob and Emilia, and currently hiding in Devon, where I set up my self-made art residency. So yeah, thank you for organizing the event. So I'm looking forward to hearing everyone. And I'm gonna text Pearl, who is saying about holograms. So I'm just gonna text you in a second. That's all.
Okay, fantastic. So we got a few more, but you haven't got the video on. So I'm gonna assume you do not want to introduce yourself unless you're gonna do it now and then speak. Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, I'm gonna take that as a let's crack on. Yes, so I wanted to start by by sharing a little bit of my experience on how to grow networks and creating collaborative projects. As I was saying at the beginning, I've created my first art collective when I was 16. I was still in high school, and I've always been fascinated about how to create with others, and that always have the I guess the issue of having to agree with everyone, but also it have the reward that you can never achieve as much, when you are creating just by yourself, when you are creating with others. And I think for me, I have always used kind of 2 techniques. That is, first, look at who you got within your networks. Who are your family? Who are your friends? Who are, really directly next to you? Because I think you are, those close networks are the ones that you can be more open and honest about what you want to be doing. And you're always going to be able to find good advice. Particularly, they are also from kind of the creative field. Let me just admit 2 more people. Yeah. So I think that's very important to don't be shy and to share your ideas of this project you want to do with your close network. Then how I always been doing it is to kind of research who they are, the expertise of your of the from the expertise of the field that are related to the project you want to be doing, and just approach them. And before you approach them, it's very good that you have kind of a summary of the type of project you want to do and what you need. And I think it's very important to break the barrier about getting a no. I've got so many no's in my career that I cannot even count them anymore in a way. But at the same time, I have had a lot of yeses, And I think it's very important to just give a leap of faith and just try out. One of the things that I've learned when moving to London is that how important it is to to go to events, and now it could go virtual, you know, obviously there could be virtual events, any type of events that you can go and you can find people that relate to your art projects, you know. It's all about finding minded people, and it's one of the reasons of why we created Flux, because sometimes we felt we wanted to just be on the same space with people that they have similar interests than us, and where we could just like openly share our ideas and help each other to make those ideas into a reality. I guess the most complex project, collaborative project that I've done recently is a project that I call Transcendence, where I'm exploring how I think it's the most complex because it's the first project that I'm doing that is multidisciplinary. So I'm collaborating with scientists that also, that by itself for me, you know, it was a challenge because it's another field, because I'm an artist and I've already got used to the work with technologies, but for me, working with scientists, it was kind of another, you know, another you know, way of working. So yeah, my project Transcendence is exploring how through an audiovisual experience you can achieve an altered state of consciousness, and it's kind of related. I chose that theme because I'm now, I can say I'm obsessed with developing some type of like new modern therapy by creating immersive experiences. And I think that's what it took me to accept the challenge of trying to do this multidisciplinary project. So I had to like kind of break it into fields. So I was like, okay, my art research, I'm going to be leading it, but I need someone the lights. You know, I kind of broke it into parts to know what people I needed in order to fulfill my idea. And then for the particular for the research, also the scientific research, I did the same. So I was like, okay, I need, you know, I'm going to focus within the scientific field. I'm going to focus in psychology and neuroscience. I'm going to research which psychologists are out there that that are already interested on the field that on particularly the research that I'm doing myself, and what type of neuroscientists are already there that are researching where I was interested. So I think that was very important exercise to do, because you have more chances of people accepting to collaborate with you if they already have an interest on you know, on your research. So it does pay off to do a bit of research ahead of time, and I think at the moment I'm slowly progressing with this project. But one of the things that I always tend to do is to communicate this idea to everyone, because then like people will, you know, come and people will come and basically tell me also, oh, I've got an idea of like who could be the researcher, who could be this perfect artist. And you know, that's how in a way you shape the team that you can, that you know, for a collaborative project, that's how I've been doing, you know. And I think for Flux, I wanted to just briefly also share how, in a way, how we've grown, because we always say that we started in the basement of the Lights of Soho gallery. It was like 20-30 people. It was really a small community that just started by Afra, Oliver and myself inviting artists that we liked, you know, and that was it. And I think by also making sure you acknowledge all the people that you got around you that are already talented and doing amazing thing, that's a very good first step, because you are including them into your world, and that creates a bond, that creates a connection. And that's why one of the main ethos that we say in Art in Flux that we focus on is connecting media artists. And for me, this connectivity thread has been very important, and we have carried on throughout, you know, through our whole history. I guess, you know, that we invited some artists, those artists invited other artists, and then that's how our, you know, network of artists expanded to what it is now. There is around 1,000 people that we have subscribed, and most of them, they are artists. I guess connecting with organizations is a bit more tricky, and it could be much more intimidating if you don't have a direct contact. That's the reality. And so for me, again, I'm always trying to keep an eye of who from my friends are working, you know, in organizations, even if it's like temporarily. In my view, always is a much better way of approaching an organization when you have a direct contact, even if that direct contact is not exactly the person you should be talking to. And another way that actually Oliver the other day, he said that he used, that is just LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn, you can actually find every, you know, kind of director or curator or anyone that you need. I think in my experience, sometimes it could be difficult for them to notice you, and usually people are really busy, but actually now we are in a time that everyone have more time in their hands, and I feel it's a good time to kickstart some collaborative projects, because people, they will be more open for new ideas and suggestions. So I will always encourage everyone to be open and to try out, and to not be disappointed if someone doesn't answer, and someone, you know, someone doesn't answer, or they just go silent, or they say no, because I feel it is okay. It might not be their time to do this, and it might not be, you know, the right time or the right person, and we have to take this no in a healthy way, which I know is difficult, but it's possible also. So I think, unless do you have any questions about what I've just said? Yeah, anyone has any questions? No? Carry on? Okay. So I'm gonna pass it over to Oliver, and I wanted him to briefly talk about his collaborative project, Analema Group, and yeah. So Oliver, do you mind to?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thank you so much, Maria. Yeah, I just wanted to add also to what you said about Flux and the origins. I also felt like when we set up Flux, it was also because we felt that there was an institutional void. There were kind of no big institutions that were providing a forum or providing, you know, some sort of an exchange between artists. And that was maybe a national thing, because I do think that, you know, media arts might have it a bit easier in other countries, but it really felt like there was a bit of a vacuum, and we wanted to step into that. And yeah, we're very lucky today to have Sean here from the Computer Art Society, and I think that's probably one of the forums that really does do that, create a bit of an exchange between media artists. But it does feel like it's needed for us to just, yeah, exchange, talk, share opportunities and experiences and all of that. Yeah, so my own experience with Analema Group. So Evgenia Emmett started Analema Group 10 years ago, and we've been collaborating even before then, and we've been collaborating literally for 10 years now within that. And it's been hugely rewarding, as it was for Maria, to work with a skilled team. Everybody brings themselves in, everybody has a different set of abilities. And on the other hand, what I find is also important is to kind of, for us at least, to keep it quite concentrated. We've worked on some projects where we had 20 collaborators and others where we had even more, but the majority of the core work is really quite as Maria said, like a small family of people that is really working together. And now we're very distributed. So we're actually working internationally. Alan is in Switzerland, and Dr. Renaud and Evgenia is in Lisbon, and David Negrao is also in Lisbon, our visual developer. And this distribution has been also a bit of a challenge, because I really feel when you're in a space together and you throw ideas at each other and you know, grab pen and paper and you plot things out, that's when ideas really come to life. But on the other hand, it was very much possible, and we've just completed the second project in that way, the project that I posted a link to at the National Gallery. And especially when you're working with digital technology, it's actually possible because a lot of the technology we're working with is also distributed and there's also network technology. So actually sending data around and testing things here and there and testing 3D soundscapes and 3D video experiences and all of that is possible. And yeah, it's still a challenge, but I think having a core team where everybody is really committed and quite focused and has their own expertise to bring to the table really helps in that context. And yeah, the other thing that I wanted to say is that whenever we branch out, similar to Maria, when we're looking for a collaborator, we're looking for a researcher or somebody who really has expertise that goes beyond what we could contribute. We're very, we're almost like we're operating almost like a corporate company. I'm afraid to say this, but we literally have like a brief in our mind of what we need this person to be. And sometimes these are researchers and scientists, and sometimes they are, yeah, other programmers or technologies. And I think it's really good to be very specific and to be very focused. And usually when you are very focused on what you want and somebody else has a similar interest, you know, there are crossroads and there's room for, yeah, something that is larger than the sum of its parts. And that's ultimately, I think, where these networks, collaborative networks, come to life. But yeah, it was a lot of kind of, hopefully it all made sense, my two cents worth. So the two last projects that we completed, one was for the National Gallery X, the previous one was at the Tate. It was very challenging because we had, the Tate Exchange is a huge space and we had to find our own budget to make it all happen. And we did, and again, we had quite a team supporting us. And it really felt like a mammoth task. And with this project, as with so many others, a key factor is also always time for us to really, I mean, you all know about project management, but really to plan ahead, to plan long term. And so with this project, we had an event horizon of 2 to 3 years. And we first published a paper at EVA London, actually, and together with the research team that we wanted to bring on board. And it really helped to kind of create a bit of momentum behind the idea and to align our different visions to kind of be all literally on the same page. And then we had enough time and enough iterative steps to kind of bring the project from something that was a bit abstract to something that was very concrete and resulted in interactive installations that were very tangible and experiential. So having a bit of a, yeah, especially when you're working in a distributed way, having time to actually physically be in the same space or work online together and get your hands dirty is hugely important. Yeah. So I think I'm going to pass over already to Afra.
Yes, we have a question for you, Oliver, and I actually had also one. But Ghislaine is asking, why do you have to find your own budget for Tate?
Yes, thank you for asking this, Ghislaine. It's a very good question, and it's a question for the Tate. We did ask the Tate that too. So the Tate Exchange is a collaborative space, and actually, believe it or not, they usually ask, so you have to apply to be a partner. They're usually inviting institutions to be part of their network. It's about 60 different associates that are part of the wider Tate Exchange associate family, and the majority of them are paying a membership fee, which they did not make us pay, so that was good. It would have been £5,000, but so they did, yeah, grant us that, and it did help us to find funding for it, but that was it. So the rest was really, and it was actually, we had agreed to, you know, to the project without really realizing how much, especially in the middle of Brexit, of a funding exercise it would be, and we were lucky enough to, again, to be able to plan in advance and get, you know, the largest amount of project grant funding that we could from the Arts Council, and we had a huge amount of partners and sponsors, and that's part of kind of a network building activity, I think. And yeah, with that, we were able to pull it off, and we're really happy with the end result. There's a film which is online now, which I can share, that details the project, but yeah, I don't want to get into it now.
Thank you, Oliver. Yeah, I wanted to ask, how did you find the right researcher for the right, you know, for the project? Like, how is that something that that in universities when you search in like yeah, from a university, how do you do that? How do you find the right specific researcher for your project? Because I know that's something you I feel you are doing much better than me, and in a way I would love to just, and maybe it's quite, I think it's quite a tricky thing when you are trying to research something as an artist, to find the right researchers to collaborate with you. How do you go about that?
I think, as you actually said before, I think it's really good to go for the expert in the field. And in our case, the topic was urban noise and how urban noise affects you and your body. And there's a couple of key researchers in the field, especially when it comes to social behavior and psychological effects on mental health. And so we kind of, scouting the field, there's only a handful of researchers that are working with the World Health Organization that have written kind of white papers on this. And to be expert in the country, worked a lot with Public Health England, is Stephen Stansfeld, and he is working at Queen Mary University. He was kind of known to other researchers also who suggested him as the expert, but it wasn't actually through the university. It was really through doing your own research, basically asking around in your networks and finding out who the best person might be to approach. But ultimately we were like you did before, we kind of shot blanks, and we just, targeted him with email, explaining the project, explaining what we had planned, and seeing if there was an interest to collaborate. And he has been, incredible actually. So we wrote a paper together, and we've done the project. He was part of a workshop and 2 talks there, and has been hugely personally involved, which was absolutely fantastic. But I think it helps if you're pulling on the same string. So if you have a goal that is kind of goes beyond, just to make just the activity itself. So in our case, it was great to create a sense of awareness around the subject, and I think that we were pulling on the same strings in a way.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Can I make a comment? I work for the University of Southampton Physics Department, and there are a lot of departments now that have public engagement specialists who may well be helpful to artists looking for collaborators. We also might get in the way, but we might be a useful resource. So I would check out the outreach pages of the department to see whether there are outreach officers or public engagement people working. They cannot often help with looking for funding as well. So it's worth getting in touch with both the researchers themselves and the public engagement specialists.
Yeah, that's a really good tip.
That helps.
Similar thing, actually, come to think of a different project, reaching out to UCL's public engagement office, and they were very, very honored and helpful, and putting us in touch with a lot of different other researchers. So
Yeah, this helps. Thank you, because sometimes that's the only thing, like a name, a particular department to look for that they can help you, and sometimes you don't know, what it is. Like it could be tricky, or it could take you a lot of time to find it. Great. Afra, I got you down to share a little bit more about your experience with Flux. I'm not sure if you feel you want to add something, or.
I actually, I feel like you and Oliver have really covered almost everything. Yeah. But just to say, obviously, the beginnings of Flux came from us 3 kind of friends who had met each other through being a part of the new media art community in London, and it kind of grew out of that those beginnings, and our friends, as you said, our artist friends. And then from there, we started doing our events in venues. So the first one was in Lights of Soho Gallery, which is somewhere where I was exhibiting already. So that was kind of the beginning of our network. So starting there in the gallery, and from there we kind of started to try and find venue partners that we could work with and do our kind of internal events like this for artists to discuss, but then also public events. And obviously over the years we started off quite small with smaller partners, and we've grown. So we've been able to show people how we can get bums on seats, and we can produce really incredible content, and and so through doing that we've been able to then go to other organizations, like the V&A or like the National Gallery, and show them what we've been doing, and they've been very happy to have us involved. Obviously we've also had many other conversations with other institutions that it hasn't quite come off. So as Maria said, it's always about getting out there and having those conversations, and sometimes they'll be positive, you know, and other times they'll be positive, but it won't be right now, and you've got to think long term. So and I think one of the things with Flux as well, we've been very organic because we're an artist-led organization. We've been very organic. We've responded to the needs of our artists and our community and of ourselves, and because of that we haven't had much restraints on what we can and can't do, and so that's been great for us to be able to really think outside the box and kind of do different types of events and things like that. And I think one of our projects that we did called Aya was a really amazing project where we worked with an Islamic digital artist, Sarah Chowdhury, and the local community of the Grenfell community, basically just after about a year after the tragedy that happened there. And so that was a different kind of network, you know, we were building there was a different kind of community where we were working with local community groups, families and children, and providing workshops and creating a kind of a collaborative community project there. So that was a kind of a new way of working, and that's something that we think is really important, and I'll share some links to that project because it was a really great one and one that we really want to continue developing. So there's obviously the artist network, and then you have the institutional network, then there's also this kind of community network as well, and within, you know, the public, there's the public that are art lovers, there's the public that are children, there's a public that, you know, so there's all these different types of things. But so we as an organization, we're trying to reach out to all these different groups in order to create a platform for our artists in many different ways and provide educational content as well for people that want to kind of understand and get to know what us weird media artists are doing over here. So yeah, I think that's a good little amount, and I will sign off, Maria.
Yeah, thank you, Afra. Yeah, that's true. It was when that project, it was the first community outreach project that Flux was doing, and I guess it had its own challenges of how to connect with communities, and Oliver did an amazing job of connecting with the schools and local art centers that they were like nearby where we were doing this exhibition and the workshops. And I think also, yeah, that's very important information. We have one question from Jose. He say, I'm curious to know what will be the difference between multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and interdisciplinary projects. Someone want to have a go at that? What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's a bit splitting hair, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, because there's several different terms. I mean, I guess it's very often these confinements are almost a bit arbitrary between one discipline and another, and so I always find it a bit difficult to then bridge between them. And I guess what all of these three different terms embraces this idea of collaboration and reaching out, and the fact that you're not necessarily tied to one specific genre and its rules and conventions. So yeah, but I don't have the breakdown of the different definitions there, and I'm not sure if I'm the best expert. Maybe Paul has an answer that is better than mine.
Who did you say? Who has it? Paula.
Paul, but she was just shaking her head, so I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. Actually, thought they seem quite similar to me, and in a way they're meaning that. But maybe if anyone, we can reflect on this, Jose, and maybe if we have any good idea, then we can just say it. Okay, so we're gonna start with our first speaker today, Graham Daniels from Addicted TV. I had the pleasure to perform along him at the Splice Festival in 2018, and he is going to talk to us about his project of the orchestra of. Is he with us actually? No, I'm starting to see that he's not with us anymore. Graham?
He's there. He's just there.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, like I just couldn't see you. Sometimes with the view it's a bit strange. Yeah, so now please, let's all
What
welcome
you would like to
Freya
know?
and go for it.
What is it you'd like to know? I mean, as artists, so I'm Graham Daniels, I'm from Addictive TV, and was asked to talk about our project Orchestra Samples, but listening to a lot of what people have said, I actually wear multiple hats, and I'm also one of the directors of the Splice Festival, but I'm also helping with a group of others run a series of events called Plugged and Plugged In, because of during lockdown, where with funding from the Arts Council, we've been showcasing kind of people performing. It's mainly kind of electronic and visual projects, and then since lockdown we've moved it all online, and we've still got to obviously complete the whole project with the funding from the Arts Council, so they've approved saying yes, move it all online. And so we've been doing workshops and performances, and because it's online, we've taken the opportunity to do quite a few international streams as well from people working in different countries. But yeah, I guess agreeing with a lot of what people have said here, over the years, we've had probably more turn downs and no's than, you know, than I really have had hot dinners. And in the end, you have to develop such a thick skin that you kind of almost expect it. And we've found generally that you shouldn't be kind of too kind of focused in terms of one place, whereas say a lot of people want to work in a particular scene in the UK and they'll only ever sort of apply to, you know, half a dozen funding bodies, and you know, if they get a lot of no's and rejections, they go, oh, what do I do? And we've generally always looked globally and just taken our work kind of everywhere because of the kind of work that we do. And in fact, Orchestra Samples that you've asked me to talk about, that's a good example. That project, I mean, we've been making it now for 10 years. In fact, this year is the 10th year. And that kind of came out of a kind of a personal project, a want of something that we wanted to do our own. We didn't sort of dream up the idea and then sort of go for funding. It was never a funded project from day one. And for those of you who don't know, essentially what the project is, because, sorry, I'll rewind very quick, sort of 30 seconds of our background, is that we're audiovisual artists, that we make music from sampling the sounds that you see in video, if that makes sense. And so one side of our work for many years, we were kind of doing AV kind of remixes where you'd get movies and you'd cut them up. You kind of actually remix a whole film into sort of 5 minutes, making music out of the sounds that you're seeing. And we were performing that all over the country and all over the world at sort of big festivals. And we even at one point started to get asked by film companies in LA to do remixes of films as alternative trailers. And that was, I don't know, would have been 15 years ago now. And that was just at the point that YouTube and platforms like that were just starting. And a lot of people were looking for kind of early content. And a lot of film companies thought, wow, this is really innovative what these guys are doing. And we were asked to do everything from, I don't know, Iron Man to Fast and Furious and films like that, where we would actually take them, cut them up and make these alternative trailers. And it was something people hadn't really seen before back in those days, of which obviously everybody sort of does now. And while touring and gigging quite a lot, what we wanted to do was something more than just remix, you know, sort of movies or TV or doing mashups and this kind of thing. And the idea we had was, instead of always just sort of flying into somewhere, doing a gig and flying out, we really wanted to meet and work and collaborate with local musicians. And the idea of Orchestra Samples was to effectively create an enormous archive of musicians just improvising, simply improvising. And then that sort of gets over the whole area of not just copyright, but you don't want to be taking other people's work and this kind of thing. And so you're just simply asking people to improvise on an instrument, and then all the work is afterwards trying to kind of find which samples match, which are in the right key, which little bits are in the right tempo, and then you build sort of, you know, your creations from that. And obviously with the video as well, so you're kind of making an audio-visual spectacle. And we found in the early days of that, we started to make it, and we did exactly as some of the people here have said, that we did pitch to the Arts Council. We pitched to quite a few places like that. and simply just got no. In fact, one of the one of the letters we had from the Arts Council, which was, it was very, disheartening at the time. They actually said, whilst an interesting idea, this project is totally unrealizable. And that's what they said. And we thought, how is it that somebody else, is allowed to just tell us, like, what our art, can be or not? And wanting to prove that wrong, we just continued, as a labour of love, as I said earlier. And what we did that we thought was quite a clever idea was that while we were getting booked to perform our other show in different places around the world, we took it upon ourselves to try and research and find somebody, who we could meet up with locally and then record them. And then slowly, bit by bit, we started to have, 10 musicians, 20 musicians, 30 musicians, sort of 40 musicians. And by about that point, we started to approach venues for residencies, not so much in the UK, because it doesn't really happen here, but particularly in somewhere like France, where you can become artist in resident in a venue where they have recording studios. You get bands coming in and recording their albums and this kind of thing. And we had quite a few of those where they opened the door to a huge amount of artists from everywhere, from North Africa to places like Togo and stuff, that we never would have otherwise got to meet those artists. And then bit by bit, we were able to kind of slowly build and build and build. And eventually, one of the early times that we performed it in the UK, we did invite somebody from the Arts Council down to the show, and they came to see the show and they loved it and said, you really should be getting funding for something like this. And so we did apply again and didn't get it. And then we did apply again. And then the fourth time, we did actually get some funding for it, some production funding. And they said, actually, you should really apply for touring when it's all completed. And we did, and we were funded a further 2 times by the Arts Council for touring, which was great. But besides that, we just continued to do it on our own. And we've now recorded, 250 musicians in about 30 countries. And the archive just continues to grow and grow and grow. And we've performed it, all over the place, everywhere from the Pompidou Centre to, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, WOMAD to, all sorts of places all over. And in fact, earlier this year, when we did the show at, and again, it's kind of that endorsement that I think was it Oliver was saying earlier, that where people don't quite get what it is you do, and then they try to say, no, you can't do that, is that with the kind of project that it is, we did actually approach quite a number of museums. I won't mention any names. And they just either were not interested or didn't understand it and just said, no thanks, And, but then we had the complete opposite in somewhere like France, where the Quai Branly Museum, which for those of you who don't know, it's a bit like, there isn't really anything like it in the UK. It's a museum of world cultures, a little bit like the Horniman Museum, but much, much bigger, crossed with the Barbican type of place. And it's right by the Eiffel Tower. And they absolutely loved the project. And in the early days, they asked us to do a talk about it to a whole load of kind of students who would come in, and they did these kind of monthly talks. And then a few years later, we were asked to perform the show, which was a couple of years ago, at the Quai Branly Museum. And it was just fantastic. And then that led on to something else and blah, blah, blah. And then when we performed it at the Pompidou Centre earlier this year in January, what was just so pleasing for us, because it's that kind of endorsement that all the many years of working on it kind of pay off to a degree, is that somebody from UNESCO was in the audience, and they absolutely loved it, and they asked for our details, and they wrote to us and said that the whole thing of what you're doing about not just instrument preservation, but the whole thing of bringing kind of instruments that people have never heard of from all over the world, from different cultures, the fact that you're kind of taking it to kind of Western audiences is a really great thing. And they've launched, UNESCO have launched a new online platform called Humanities, Arts and Society, which only launched about 2 weeks ago. And they asked me to write an article all about orchestra samples for it, and so I did. And I just think that sometimes you'll find that often, I think within certain arts scenes, people are often so constricted by or blinkered by kind of, whether it's just by what they've always liked, being brought up on, what is the current zeitgeist, that they don't see things that are just slightly different, which is why so often I think in arts or in music, in anything, things that are kind of the underground sort of bubbling scenes and things that are happening, the mainstream will always, the mainstream, I don't mean the mainstream of society, I mean the mainstream within arts, they'll totally miss it because it's happening under their noses, but they're not interested. And so yeah, and effectively that's, what Orchestra of Samples is, and we've detailed it on an enormous blog. Our website has 10 years worth of documentation of every single recording that we've done, where we link to the musicians, the artists, bands that they're in, what they do, a little piece about them. And we've found that over the years, just the encouragement from musicians has been fantastic. And there's so many really respected ethnomusicologists who wanted to be part of the project, even people like Dame Evelyn Glennie, who wanted to perform with us, and she performed with us on the show, and then we recorded her afterwards. But again, it's one of those things that, being being professional, I won't mention a name, but we contacted a rather well-known music school recently that deal with world music, shall we say, and a lot of world artists. And one of their heads of faculty wrote such a rude email saying that we're taking, people's like work and sampling, effectively saying like the sampling is the devil's work. It's that kind of attitude. And to me, I just think sometimes it's just such a shame when people in authority can have that kind of attitude to kind of projects that are innovative and doing something different, of which, particularly if it's a project that practically no one else on the planet is doing. I mean, the only other thing I know of anything like what we're doing is something like Play for Change. And there's a guy in Morocco, actually, he's a Moroccan, but he now lives in the States, who's similar-ish type of thing. But it's kind of one of those things that when there practically is no other project like it, I think people often from mainstream arts will often not understand what it is you're doing, because they want something that they can really pigeonhole. They want something that they can easily identify with and go, oh yeah, it's just like that project, or like that project, or like that. And it's like that mixed with that, But when you're doing something that's really a bit unfathomable and difficult for people to easily sort of grasp in a single concept, it's, it makes it's a lot harder. It's kind of like a blessing and a curse at the same time. And so, yeah, and it's been like that throughout the whole kind of, 10 years of doing the project. You'll meet people and festivals who go, wow, God, this is incredible, and others who just won't get it at all. I mean, WOMAD is a great example. It's the kind of project that absolutely should be performed at somewhere like WOMAD, and for many years we pitched to WOMAD, approached them, and they weren't really interested until eventually they said, oh yes, you're on the list, it's very interesting, we'll think about it. And a bit like the UNESCO incident, we did a small gig in Hull a few years ago, and we didn't know, but there was a guy in the audience who'd heard about it, and he came to see the show, and we only found out afterwards, but he's not directly involved with WOMAD, but he, best phrase I could say, he has the ear of one of the main bookers, that he goes around and sees lots of different shows and says, oh, this is really good, or that's really good, or this artist is really interesting, and this kind of thing. And we found out afterwards that within, I don't know, 5 minutes or something of seeing the show, he texted one of the main bookers at WOMAD and just said, 2 thumbs up, you really should book this show. And then they contacted us and said, we want to book the show. And we only found out that afterwards. But it's kind of, again, it just proves that thing that you've got to just, if you've got courage and convictions, just keep going. You've got to keep doing what it is that you believe in. As they say, build it and they will come.
Yeah, fantastic, fascinating. I love, when someone persevere, on an idea, like you keep going, and then you will get the reward actually. And it's, I've seen it live, and it is an amazing project, and it's really good to understand the kind of all the insights and that went to, I didn't know that it took you so much, in a way you had to fight so much to, to start.
Oh yeah.
A lot to what you are saying about starting a project that is not quite understood, you know. It's happening now with my project with Transcendence, and I feel it's about trying other avenues, not to only try Tate and be, you know, just like thinking of just the big institutions, and now it's all about the creative industries, and we have much more, you know. We don't have to be focused only on galleries or you know, institutions as such. Anyone have any questions for Graham? We move on to the next speaker.
Ooh, they're all very quiet.
Yeah, people, it's fine. Then people can think about it and then post it in the chat. We move to the next one, and then I'm sure there is always some questions. So the next speaker is going to be we got Fayan. Forgive me for the pronunciation. Fayan Smith. Hello, Fayan, are you with us?
One second. I think I was muted there, even though I turned it off. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear
Fantastic.
you.
Yeah, you're used to calling me Faye, aren't you?
How am I calling it? Fayan? Or how am I saying it?
Fayan. It's just far more boring than you're saying it. It's just Fayan. You make it sound more exotic.
I know. Fayan. From October Collective, we also, I've been honored to perform next to her at the opening of the Mars and Beyond exhibition. That it was the last event of this year, no? In London, at least for me, it was the kind of the one event I participated in London. It was in February, and quite a few artists from Flux, they were participating, and I got to see your lovely project live. I got me really intrigued, so I wanted to invite you for first time to our Flux community to talk. So
yeah, thank you, Maria. It feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it, since you're all able to gather and stare at things in unison. As Maria mentioned, my name is Fayan Smith. I'm co-founder of October Collective, a female-directed collaborative project launched in 2019 with Alexandra Karpovitz and Isabella Steinsdotter. You can find us on Instagram at october.collective, that's the one. In the last year, the collective have exhibited internationally, most notably as the flagship project of Giudecca Art District, a new permanent location for contemporary art in Venice. My own practice is multidisciplinary, the controversial term, with a focus on experimental video and music production. I've got particular interest in autonomous internet communities and culture as mediated online. I want to talk a little bit more generally about my experience of networking and collaboration, just the sort of founding principles of what I discovered when I went out into the world. Because when I started, I didn't have a connection to London or the arts. Even though I attended Goldsmiths, which has a really well-respected fine art department, there's not much kind of overlap of opportunities between the departments. Ultimately, I felt pretty peripheral to the art scene. The idea of breaking into it was pretty daunting for me. I need to connect people within the creative sphere who could collaborate and generate new work, but also the facilitators who could amplify what I was doing. This is difficult when you're essentially nobody and you have no footprint, and it's a very competitive and nepotistic world, as you will find. You know, people have cliques. If you don't know anybody who worked in the arts, like I grew up, nobody went to university in my family. So the idea of a lot of creative titles and roles, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what a creative director was. You know, these things that are quite fundamental when you're sort of networking in these environments. So there's definitely a learning curve. With some trial and error, I discovered three things that sort of transformed my situation. The first is that I created my own spaces after becoming a regular attendee. This is what you were saying as well, Maria, wasn't it? After becoming a regular attendee of various art-based events and creative raves, I started to make meaningful connections. I found that people who were generally beyond my reach in communication were suddenly accessible. This led me to create a number of events that could provide a networking hub for myself and for the artists around me. Because if you don't fit, create it, bring people to you. I use the internet, which it seems fairly obvious, but it's quite a nebulous environment and oversaturated. But I guess it's a case of really focusing in, which I'll go into, but from the early days of MySpace to Twitter, finding active groups and posting your work, leaving comments and likes for other artists, just making yourself visible in that environment. If you're well researched, you can get yourself on a lot of radars that you've struggled to get yourself on before, particularly with Twitter, where you can directly at people, and it doesn't always catch, but you know, you can't walk into the office and say, hey buddy, look at my portfolio. So this is one way of putting yourself, your face on their radar. Then also, so just looking at my notes here, I form collectives and think tanks because a lot of what I do is kind of heavily based in philosophy and ideas around technology. So even people who aren't necessarily multimedia artists may be able to contribute interesting things, get a flow of ideas, because for me, technology is more than just visual, there's a whole ethics side of it and things like that. So forming these groups, if you've got some founding principles and they resonate with other people, you can provide a structure as well, i.e. seeking funding, forming an organization, then people will gravitate towards you. If you take the initiative to create something, there are usually people who want to do the exact same thing, but can't take those first steps. So when I became a facilitator myself, helping put together opportunities for other artists, I found that they would return the favor. So, you know, if I found a great space, I would put that out on the networks. You know, these are the things that will make you kind of visible to people. And once you get those founding principles, you know, for October Collective, it's about female empowerment without being exclusionary to men. And I feel that that is something that a lot of people were galvanized around, because we didn't want to say, hey, we hate you, you know, about men. But we wanted to say, but we do want to create a power base for women that was female directed, that included every gender, that included everybody who wanted to be part of it. But we knew who we were and what our agenda was. And we felt there weren't enough voices like our own to be part of the art scene. I would just say that there's a general kind of, there's some factors that I think are important. If I have to condense the approach into the single most important things, I would advise making yourself visible and accessible by any means you can. I have a friend who set up a gallery in her own flat because she couldn't find anywhere else to hold an exhibition. It became the hottest ticket in town. And she established her career as a curator on that. Because it was an ingenious approach to a problem, it got a lot of attention. It was disruptive. She did try and hit the whole kind of, you know, I want to be focused in, you know, Victoria Miro, you know, instantly. It was this idea of like, well, if I'm not getting in, I'm going to make something so great that you have to pay attention to it. And that's my ethos as well. I would say the other thing to do is do your research. It's good to kind of really know who it is that you want to speak to. It's better to approach 10 people you really admire, that you've intensely researched, that you understand their work and their practice really well, than send out like a million, you know, generic emails that kind of just not going to grip them. And I think that's really important. It's kind of, if you don't find what you're doing exciting, why would anybody else? So, you know, refine your pitch and really decide who it is that you want to approach and what's going to excite them about you. Because I think taking that extra time to look at how you approach people and really connect with them makes all the difference. I know for me, when I've been facilitating projects and I'm looking for people to work for, if someone pays attention to detail about what they want to get into, and they're interested in what we do and they show some knowledge of it, that always goes a really long way with me. It's a lot more credible. I'd say in conclusion that my experiences have informed me that to make meaningful connections, it's easier if you're willing to create a focal point for yourself if there isn't one given to you. So yeah, throw that event, you know, have that online forum. If you're not allowed in another space, just create it for yourself. And don't be afraid to directly contact other artists with your ideas. I find that approaching other artists is a really good way to get into the tent, because no matter how famous or established an artist is, if they love your idea, they will get behind you. We had this with Kendall Gears. We were invited to exhibit with him in his curated event in Vienna, because he was very intrigued by what we've done, and he just was interested as an artist. It's easier than going through layers of agents and, you know, all these other people that create barriers to get into something. If you can excite an artist, another artist, they tend to just supersede that and want to get to know you. So yeah, that's essentially my thoughts on networking in London. I haven't said anything that specific about what I do, but I thought it was interesting just to share what I thought worked.
Wow, yes, thank you. Fascinating. I think you had like two amazing points about being disruptive, like DIY. One of the things that I learned, I grew up as an independent, like underground artist. So and I've been always very good at just like putting, you know, things together with friends and in spaces, occupying spaces. And I think that's an idea we have to even remember now. You are making me remembering now, like how important it is to be independent, find your own resources, and you know, DIY your idea. and I think that's very important. And also I think a very good point is about connecting with other artists, other creatives, because I think, you know, artists, it doesn't matter, you know, who in level you are, in a way. If an idea excites you, it will excite you and you will support it. And for me, it's been the same. Sometimes I get a lot of younger artists, and the more also precise and enthusiastic they come to me, the more I'm you know, willing to kind of support their idea. I think it's important to be precise and to be very enthusiastic about what you are proposing. And I think people will feel that and empathize with it, and therefore, you know, feel more inclined to support it. So thank you. Wonderful points. Anyone has any questions?
Like crickets.
Yeah, I like. We need a clock. I would love to. You will have a clock, you know, now that tick 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 tick.
I have a question, maybe. I have a question about collaborating now during lockdown. Are you continuing to collaborate? Is it possible to kind of conceptually brainstorm new ideas? Because it's difficult with performing art, isn't it? I mean, I think it's been a challenge for a lot of us, really. Yeah. How do you deal with it?
I like the inhibitions, like the freak that I am. It's kind of like, you know, when you get trapped in a scenario and it's very restrictive, it can be very inspiring because you need to be resourceful. I mean, you can sit at home all day with the best resources, the best equipment, and find yourself somehow laughing. But as soon as the pressure is on and you can't do what you normally want to do, then your mind explodes with ideas to try and facilitate it. I mean, we've kept talking. I mean, as Alexandra mentioned, she's on a self-imposed art retreat. So in a way, it's been very good to get back to the fundamentals of what we're doing, because a lot of it is coached in like philosophical, theoretical ideas that take a bit of time to structure. So we've just moved on to that side of things, knowing that we can do things. And I love the new emphasis online, you know, because it's what I'm particularly interested in, you know, autonomous internet communities, how people use the online space. So that in that way, it's been brilliant, because I've seen an absolute flourishing of new ways to use online. To get ideas across.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Graham, did you just raise your hand? Yeah.
Yeah. No, to say actually, same, exactly the same here. We've continued to still, and in fact, Michael Neo, are you here somewhere? I can see him somewhere. Is he? There he is, waving. Hello. Yes. In fact, me and Michael have been continuing. We're collaborating online. In fact, using Zoom. We found, because it's really good that it's not just offering screen sharing. With Zoom, you can actually have remote access. You can control you control the other person's computer. And so it's really good, depending on what software you're using. You can both sit and access the software together and collaborate. And in fact, since lockdown, is it 3 tracks we've made?
I think lockdown has made us has been a blessing in disguise, really. And well, Zoom has
made us more productive.
Good. Yeah.
The only thing you can't do is go out and sort of record people.
Yeah, I've seen some very interesting projects of like musicians where they were like jamming live through Zoom, and I was impressed by the quality of the recording, and you know, of everything, the sound, the video. I was like, wow, it felt like a live, you know, like a live act. I was impressed, and I think that technology is only gonna be improving more and more. So it's exciting to see what we have. Actually, there is a big project that has been happening from Shangri-La, from Glastonbury Festival, that is definitely worth checking out, because they develop a whole virtual environment with several stages with live acts and live visuals. It's called The Lost Horizon.
Yeah, Lost Horizon.
Yeah, I think it should be a good one to definitely to work out. We have someone making some strange noise. Who is it? Oh, yes, stop now. Thank you. Thank you, guys. We are gonna welcome our next speaker, Laura Netz from Art Futura, who was very honored to have been invited to give a talk about my project Kimatica, the last Art Futura in London. Yeah, I thought it was such an example of a collaborative project that has been running for like quite a few years. So yeah, I'd love to hear more about it, about your experience, Laura. Thank you.
All right. Well, first, thank you very much. It's very impressive. I feel very pleased to be here with you tonight. And yeah, very impressive. All the quality of all the performers and presenters is very nice. Well, I want to introduce a little bit of Art Futura. But then I want to highlight some transversal collaborations that the board of directors have recently and for many years been participating on. And yeah, I'll just start and then I will explain a little bit how is the situation with Art Futura London for this year. So Art Futura, this year is the 30th edition. And what is it is itself a festival, but is also a network because we collaborate with different cities in the world. At the moment, we are a network of 20 cities. In each city, we have, let's say, a curatorial team that works independently, but at the same time, it shares the same. We work with the same catalog and we work with the same audiovisual screening. That's, let's say, is the root of the festival. And let me see here. The audiovisual program is best of new media, virtual reality, interactive design, and digital animation. And it has also 3D and motion graphics. It tries to, each year it proposes the best digital artworks that have been around for the last year, and it puts it all together. It's a participation of more than 100 artists all around the world, and is up to 6 hours of screenings. So this is very important because the format that it is an audiovisual program, which is just file transfers. It allows us to be present in all over the world with all over international artists. So that's it makes it the festival very malleable and very is in terms of resources, economically producing a festival which is only video is quite cheap, and you can be there everywhere in the world, and you can be in museums, institutions, art galleries, festivals, independent venues, schools, universities. And this is why Art Futura, it has been the last 30 years stable as an international program, because of this. It's very malleable, and then it shares the same audiovisual program and the catalog within all these 20 cities all around the world. But then moreover, in each city, the curatorial team proposes activities like exhibitions, performance, conferences, and this makes that an interconnection in between local and global. It makes it this type of, it has this conversation in between the local agents, but also you can see the most international artists. You can join artists from the USA, from France, from Brazil, and that makes it very rich. Let's say that from the local context, you have a contextual international support that boosts your local activity. That's how I feel here in London. I feel like Art Futura for me is like an umbrella. It gives me the opportunity to boost the local talents that I found in the city, but within a context of an international umbrella. and that has allowed me to collaborate with different venues in London. I've been feeling since 2015 that like I'm a type of a circus, because I've been practicing nomadism in the city. I've been in since 2015. I've been joining different venues, which is very rich because it has made me met very different people. I've been working with Waterman's Art Center, with Hackney Picture House, people from Stour Space. I've been collaborating with Rhythmic and also with Eclectic. So this is very challenging, and also is very tiring because you have to work a lot on your own. I'm the unique curator for London, so I'll do everything from budgeting, researching, production, management, everything, PR, marketing. So I've been learning a lot of digital resources for PR, and also researching, also networking as well within in the city, meeting curators, artists. This year, for example, I'm trying to collaborate with 3 venues, because I think the more venues you have, the better is the festival. The best is the festival. So for this year, I'm working with Waterman's, I'm working with Goldsmith, and I'm working with Eclectic, but everything is a stop. Arts Council is stopped as well, so I don't know what's going to happen. I was projecting to design the festival in January 2021, but everything is on the air at the moment. And well, that's more or less the situation where we are now. What I want to highlight tonight is I want to introduce you the work of the main board of directors. They are based in Barcelona and in Madrid, and they have been, as I mentioned earlier, Art Futura, it has been on the scene, on the new media art and art science and technology since the 1990s, 30 years ago, when they have collaborated with many artists from William Gibson, Theo Jansen, Laurie Anderson, Paul Freelander, Timothy Leary, and Universal Everything, and so on, because you can imagine that 30 years, it gives you lots of possibilities to exchange ideas and work with others. They have worked with Pixar, with SAD Montreal, and also with Ars Electronica. And since their inception, Art Futura has been connected transversally with other organizations that are for the growth and exploration of new media art. One of them is the BIP Electronic Art Collection. I'm copying these onto the chat so you can have a look. This is one of the main board directors of Art Futura, is directly connected to the prize, electronic prize BIP. So this prize is also at the same time connected with ARCO, which is the Frieze Art Fair, but in Spain. So this makes it, it's very important that we found these little institutions in the core of the mainstream of the contemporary art, because there is a strong dialogue in between new media art and contemporary art, and how sometimes new media can be excluded from the tendencies of contemporary art. So what, for example, this Premio Art Electronico is doing is just establishing bridges in between new media art and contemporary art. And it has is a collection. I don't know many other more collections of electronic art that work with art, science, and technology and new media. I know that there is the Whitney Museum in New York, which is curated by Christine Paul, that they are collecting electronic art as well. But this one, BIP Electronic Art Collection, is based in Spain, and I also want to say that is funded by BIP. BIP is like the Intel, but in Spain, is a producer and manufacturer of technology. So they are very selective, and they I would recommend all the artists that are interested in winning awards, but please stay ahead, because they have an open call, so you can submit your work, and it's a very attractive possibility. From the other side, the same board of directors that have been working with this BIP Arte Electronico, they have raised recently, is a more recent project, is the New Art Foundation. I'll copy paste in the chat. So the New Art Foundation is a more recent project. You will see that the website is less developed, but it's very interesting that they are focusing on promotion and development of new media art. So what they mainly do is they have open call, the artists present their projects, and what they do is they finance the artists, that the project that the artist wants to develop. So from the core of the what we do, they say our mission is to help the artistic community position new scientific, technical, and conceptual formulas in art, to make them know and to educate society, enabling to appreciate art in combination with science and technology as an expression of the most forward-looking ideas. So if the BIP collection is already acquiring works that have been made, the New Art Foundation is proposing paying artists to develop their own ideas. So I think it was very important for me to highlight this transversality of connectivity in networking in new media art, because this is how we grow, and from one side we can contribute to another place, and this is how we contribute to this rhizome of the new media art.
Fantastic! Wow, thank you, Laura. So much information. I did ask you for another link if you have it about the call out of the BIP. I'm not sure if you have it or not. Or we can find that through the collectionbip.org that I didn't get. I wasn't sure if that you can access to the call out through the collectionbip.org. Is that how you can access that?
Collection BIP is one, and then there is the New Art Foundation. These are the both projects that Art Futura is also involved with.
Fantastic. Yeah, I like also to know now more about Spain, now that we are gonna be opening a new base in Madrid shortly. So I wanna research what's going on over there. Thank you very much, Laura. I think it's also very important to hear about the perspective from, as an organization, how to connect with other organizations that can complement each other. And in a way, we are all quite niche, because new media art is not such a, huge world. So it is about looking out there to who can complement, the needs and the kind of ethos of your organization too. Fantastic. I think we're gonna go for the next speaker, because it's slowly the clock is ticking. If you have any questions, just post them on the chat. So I would love to welcome now to Sean Clark from Computers Art Society, who we were collaborating last year at our annual Art in Flux exhibition for a combined exhibition that it was called Event 2, where Computers Art Society was featuring artists working with technology. Like they started 50 years ago. It was like the anniversary of the first ever computational art exhibition, and then Art in Flux collaborated with them, curating the contemporary section, which it was such a lovely project, and kind of the opportunity that we had to work with you, Sean. So yeah, I would love you run such a variety also of like collaborative projects. So I thought you were a perfect candidate to add to this conversation today. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm just going to paste in the links that I'm going to be talking about. Hopefully that has worked. Yeah, they haven't all hot linked, but they're there. Okay, so my name's Sean Clark. I'm an artist curator, I suppose educator as well. And I'm actually going to talk about three things, but each one is going to be quite brief. I'm just going to reflect a little bit on how collaboration has, how I've collaborated in my career. I'm going to give you an overview of the Computer Arts Society and the network that it's part of. And then I thought I'd just give you a little bit about my latest project, which is a collaborative project in Leicester as part of the emergency funding for arts organisations. So when you suggested we talk about networks and collaboration, I thought I'd make a little list of some of the organisations that I've been involved in for almost 30 years. And actually, I'm not going to read out every single one because it would go on and on. But what I realised was that since mid-90s, really, when I was working at School of Art and Design at Derby University, collaboration has most definitely been a crucial part of how I work. So I'm looking at a list that includes arts groups, organisations that run events and gigs and do exhibitions, working perhaps in the 90s, working in the 2000s with as a sort of resident VJ for an arts group, then organising club nights. I've got like 3 or 4 different club nights we've organised. And then more recently, when I set up Interact in Leicester, the nature of collaboration for me changed a little bit. And I'll just sort of quickly summarise that in a second. And then, of course, as an individual, I've worked a lot with Esther Orenson. That's been quite an important collaboration for me more recently. And the thing that sort of strikes me about all of these is that we tend to collaborate for different reasons. And I think it really comes down to you collaborate with people because it gives you access to a broader set of skills. And certainly in my early career, because somebody who had a computing background, my computer expertise was very useful in the art context. So back in the 90s, because I knew how to make web pages and program computers and so on, I was a good person to have on board in an arts group. But that changes over time. I started putting more ideas in rather than just offering skills. And then the collaboration became something that was more of an idea-based thing. And then as my career developed, a lot of my collaborations were about co-organising exhibitions, co-curating events, and organising club nights and activities and so on. So the first observation really is that I think for me, collaboration has been very important, remains very important, but why I collaborate has probably changed a little bit. And I think at the moment, I primarily collaborate because it's the best way of getting more things done. So I like to work in a group because as a group, you can get more things done. Doesn't mean that I don't work as an individual. My practice, an image behind me, I work by myself in creating my own artwork, but I like to collaborate with people to organise exhibitions, shows, and other activities and so on. So maybe the first observation in terms of collaboration is that why you do it might change over time, but I always think it's a very important part of your career. Now, if you look at the Computer Arts Society, this was established in 1968 as a way of computer artists, digital artists, perhaps we might use the term now, of getting together and exchanging ideas. It was ideas and technologies as well. It did work across both of those. And they also worked together to create exhibitions and curate shows and run events. So there's a sort of a continuity there of how I'm working. The group ran for about 20 years, from 68 through to the 80s, had a gap and then was re-established in the early 2000s. And I personally got involved in around about 2010. Now, I brought my interest in running exhibitions and so on to the Computer Arts Society, and that tends to be how I work with the society mostly. But beyond that, it has a speaker program, it has opportunities to network. It's involved in an annual conference, the EVA conference, that a number of people here are also involved in. So it operates as an organisation, primarily online now. We do meet face-to-face, often in London, that tries to bring artists together. And maybe what the Computer Arts Society offers to certainly some of the younger or emerging artists is an understanding of history, because of the 50-year history, and even the bit in the middle where there wasn't a Computer Arts Society. In our archive, we're starting to fill that gap with materials from the time. So maybe is an organisation that helps you understand digital art and computer art history. So the Computer Arts Society, the second link there is one that you ought to have a look at, and do have a look at our collection and event 2, the event that we worked on with Flux, which is well documented on that website. And then I was thinking about my current project, which is in Leicester, where I'm now sort of creatively based. I live just outside the city, so I'm not quite locked down again. but I can't go to my studio at the moment, which is a bit of a pain because that is in Leicester. So from Leicester, where I'm creatively based, I run an organisation called Interact Digital Arts, and I have a number of goals with that organisation. One is to make art, so we take on arts commissions. The other is to curate, and in particular look at both national and international and local digital art. So it's an organisation that I do try to encourage people to get involved in digital art and show their work locally, but also education as well. So I work across those three areas. Recently, when the call went out from ACE about emergency funding, we very quickly, as a sort of group of artists, put together a response which was to cover those three areas, to get some art made. So our artists had small bursaries to create new work, to exhibit that in the new way, which is online and through streaming events, and to develop some educational activities. And that seemed to go down well with the Arts Council. Now, what I also found, it was a great opportunity to try and actually make some connections that had been proving a little tricky to make prior to lockdown. And in particular, we have quite a diverse range of NPO organisations in Leicester, National Portfolio organisations. And they're always very busy doing their particular art form. But I've been very keen on trying to talk to as many as possible about encouraging them to bring digital artists into their practice or into what they do. And I found that this exhibition, online exhibition, and the climate we're in, they seem to be a lot more open now to talking to people. I don't know if it's because they've been told by the Arts Council that they've got to be more supportive, or because they've got a bit more time, because some of the things they aren't running took up a lot of time and they're looking for different things to do. But I found that in terms of collaboration and understanding my local arts environment, I've had a lot more luck getting in touch with NPOs and bringing them in for conversations and so on. I also actually found I'm having more conversations with the Arts Council at the moment. Often they're very busy, and I know they've still got a lot to do, but I was able to bring an Arts Council person into a Meet the Artist session, and they're very keen now on talking about what might happen in the future when project grants are open again. Likewise, I've actually found it quite useful to talk to other groups in nearby cities. So Leicester is in the Midlands, we're surrounded, we've got Nottingham, Birmingham, Derby, other places and so on. And I found it's been a little easier actually getting in touch with some of those other groups. Then maybe they're doing a bit more online, they have a bit more time and they're more willing to talk. So what I found recently with this particular exhibition is that the climate itself that we're in seems to be encouraging a bit more collaboration and networking. Now, I don't know if that is a universal effect that other people have had, but maybe partly it's down to organising meetings can be a lot easier now. If you want to organise a meeting, there's no expectation that you have to meet face to face, as long as somebody's got an hour in the calendar for a Zoom meeting. You know, we do a lot of Zoom meetings at the moment. You can get in touch with people. So I didn't want to talk for too long, but I thought it might be useful just to reflect on those three things: the nature of collaboration, and then the Computer Art Society as an organisation that was built on the idea of working together and networking, and is a member organisation, so you can join simply by joining our mailing list or following us on Facebook. And then my recent project where it's very much been about making contact and really mapping the local art scene a bit more and trying to get more future collaborations and name better known amongst that sort of community.
Thank
So
you. Thank you very much, Sean. Sorry, I was mute, so that's why I took a little bit. Yeah, thank you. That was really informative, really informative. I think you gave some fantastic pointers. And it's true, it is a good a reminder about now how it's easier to meet with people because they don't have to commit as much, and you can, you know, it's more likely. And also I think people are more empathetic, you know, like I think that their heart is a bit more open, that everyone kind of needs support, need help, and I think people will be making efforts to make time to help artists to, you know, in whatever way they can. So let's use that, you know. This moment it definitely has really bad points, but it has good points like the one you just made. So thank you for sharing your expertise so far.
Some of these new ways, or ways they're not necessarily new, but ways of working will continue as well. Certainly for the events we do, I can't see us doing an event now without having a live stream. I think a live stream reaches that broader international audience the live event gets to people who want to come and experience it live. But I also think Zoom meetings and other forms of online meeting will now become just part of how we work, which is odd because video conferencing has been around for decades, but it's taken something like this for us to say, well, actually, why not? We just have a quick video conference. We don't have to spend a whole day meeting up. It's nice to meet up. You know, most definitely. I like going down and meeting everyone in London, but this might actually encourage better ways, not just like the emergency response, but better ways of working.
Sean, you probably know, Terry here, sorry. If I can say, Maria, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great, thank you. On this point of collaboration, I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's interesting that in Florence, the person who organizes the EVA conference in Florence, which some of us were going to, it was going to happen in April, I think. A lovely, it was going to happen on an ideal spring day in Florence. It was going to be perfect. But of course it was cancelled. And anyway, Vito Caparelli, who runs that conference, and I think he's been running it for 30 years now, he's putting on a day's event. I think it's on the 20th of July, so it might be worth you sort of recording that fact, because it will be the first EVA conference that happens in this sort of post-COVID-19 period. And it's interesting that I've been working with him really the whole of this year. It started in January, and Oliver knows something about this. We're trying to invade, I think it's the right word, the European Commission's minefield of funding. Now, I don't know whether any of you have ever been through all this. It makes you think the Arts Council is a pussycat by comparison. In other words, to find your way through European Commission in order to get a project off the ground is a major challenge. And I've decided to accept that challenge. And it's an intriguing process. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the whole process. Oliver, I will come back to you on this in detail later. But I think, I think it's going to take me 12 months to do this. I've now got to the 6-month stage, and I can see there's a little bit of light there. I've begun to understand the whole situation. Very complex, very complex. But let me just tell you one thing. I am a great believer, I know this country isn't, but I'm a great believer in the European Union and the European Commission. And they, as an organization, have embraced art and artists as being a significant part of their innovative activities. Now, that doesn't mean it's been made easy, but their STARTS program, which, as you know, means science plus technology plus arts, is a very, very significant achievement. And I've now talked, when I say talked, as you know, we don't talk face to face any longer, but I have had email conversations with the person in the Commission who literally has got that going. He's been working on it for 8 years. He's got a fantastic sense of humor. And by the way, Oliver, he comes from Austria. And, I have hopes that we might do it. Now, UK is out of it. UK is persona non grata. But don't let that worry you, because the whole idea that with Vito, I will try and get this thing started. I don't think we'll say anything about it.
Spirit, absolutely. With all of these applications, they're all daunting, and they're meant to be daunting and scary, and you just cannot let them scare you. You just have to where there's a will, there's a way.
Oliver, I don't run scared. I don't run scared. I'm too old to be scared by anybody. But
yeah, all the best.
There is Maria, there's a future in it.
Yeah. I wish you all the best with that project, and I'm exploring now also like European funding, and it has its own ways, and but it's definitely something we should be looking at, because they are investing a lot in culture right now. So yeah. good to get our feet in. Yeah, we got now our last speaker, the wonderful Dean Adger from Ugly Duck, who has been a long-term collaborator. Art in Flux actually did the first exhibition at the Ugly Duck, and he was kind of encouraged. He was encouraged by Dean. Dean was telling us that you are now an art collective. You have to like make an exhibition that showcase, you know, the work that you do. So you know, thanks. Always appreciate that encouragement and the space, because we kind of created like a little festival there with like the performance and the exhibition and the talks, and you know, we've never done anything like that since then, and for that, you know, we'll always have that project as our, you know, kind of masterpiece. So thank you. Also, obviously, Dean runs lots of collaborative projects because she been collaborating, running and curating collaborative exhibitions at the Ugly Duck. I would love to hear about your experience, Dean.
Thanks Maria, and hi everyone. So yeah, my name is Dean. I'm non-binary, so my pronouns are they and them. So as Maria was saying, I'm a curator specialized in contemporary and new media art, and at the moment and since 4 years I've been running Ugly Duck and doing creative production there. So it's Ugly Duck is an art organization that we take over empty buildings and we turn them into creative spaces. At the moment we are based in a fantastic Victorian factory in Bermondsey, so in South London, which I think some of you have been in a pre-COVID situation. So yeah, we want to focus, and we focus on giving access to space for emerging artists and giving a platform for underrepresented voices and marginalized subjects and marginalized art forms as well. So we kind of trying to be that place where people don't really know where to kind of go next after university maybe, or when they have an idea and they don't really know kind of where to put it. Then they can at least come and talk to us. And I think as a producer, the kind of essence of our work is to collaborate, at least with artists, and then to make that link between the artist and institution, or between the artist and the audience. So there's always a collaborative aspect in I think what I do. I'm particularly interested in observing how art and technology as mediums can highlight social issues and serve as bridges to create dynamic and important discussions. So particularly around the themes of gender, identity, activism, surveillance, data. So those has been the kind of main themes that I've been exploring through my work, or through the work I curate at Ugly Duck. And yeah, so the space of the Ugly Duck is just two members of staff, and we have three kind of director, or the board of director, and we have 12 events per year, so once a month over the course of a weekend most of the time, and then I curate and we produce one in-house show per year. Last year we had 20,000 people coming through the doors, and we've worked with more than 120 artists, sometimes very, very emerging from their first exhibition to some more established, like Anna Dimitriou, and some other great artists that we've collaborated with. So I think it was really great to hear everyone talking, because I think we really saw from different points of view, from artists to curators to venue. And yeah, again, Ugly Duck, because we're such a small team, we're very focused on collaborative work, whether it's through kind of giving access to the space, or the way we would even run a project, or even through this scheme that we have called the Time Bank, where we very much try to kind of create this protocol for collaborating, where people can come and use the venue for free, and then in exchange they can volunteer for us. And so that's also kind of, I think, an interesting way to base an exchange that is not just on money, and that is based on skill swap. So I think this is an interesting thing for you guys to check as well, whether you can use this in between you, or if you want to use it with us, Ugly Duck, for space or for something else. We run also, so the space is fairly large, but we also really encourage people to come and do classes on the evening, and to run social events, networking events, and a workshop. So we had several workshops with Afra, and a few with Blanca Regina, who was doing a projection mapping workshop, which the space was also very great for that, because it's such a large space. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm very much trying to work towards an ethic of curating. It's very important for me. It's very important for me to try to be non-hierarchical, as non-hierarchical as possible. I'm aware that by running this space, I'm in a position of power, and my work, how I see it, is to try to share this power as much as possible. And to really kind of, share the space and support young and emerging creation, and give people a chance. And the way we do this most of the time is through call for projects. We invite most of the time 3 guest curators. Guylaine was one of our guest curators a few years ago, to also try to broaden our space and our network. Because what's interesting is, even with the space, we also realize that there is some people that still don't know about us, and it's interesting to see that even with social media, even by posting and by giving those opportunity of literally using a space for free, there's still a lot of people that have never heard of us. And so it's, how do you widen your network? How do you encourage everyone to kind of share those opportunities for other people to be able to benefit from those opportunities? And we're still very much trying to find ways of doing this. So yeah, we've collaborated with Kinetica, with Flux, of course, with Guts Gallery, Cluster, Museum of Drug Policy, event like Sheroes. I think it's important for us we're very much not a white cube gallery. So again, I want to strike that on the fact that we frame and we go along with what people want to do, and of course we hear and we go along with them, but we very much also hand over the keys and let people quite a lot of creative freedom in terms of how they want to use the space, because we want to very much go outside of the standard format of any of events. Actually, I started a lot of my experience. I started with Guylaine Boddington, who's here tonight, and who's the director of Body Data Space. And we worked on a lot of collaborative projects, and she's a real expert on collaborative projects, and also she also acts as a real connector between people. And I think it's a really great thing to remember for all of us, that what we can do at our small scale is to just always introduce people with each other when they talk to us about projects. Just be like, oh, that makes me think about this person, let me share that with them. So yeah, we've already passed the time, so I think I'm gonna stop here.
Thank you, Dean. It's always lovely to hear what you, a little bit more about what you're up to now, and updates on what Ugly Duck is doing. And yeah, I think your experience as doing collaborative project is definitely very, adds a lot of interesting notes, and I think I'm gonna stay with this point about you're saying, like, we are the network in a way. We are, the network starts with you, and like the more you are also not only requesting to be connected, but also help other people to connect, the more, it's like the more also you will get that back. And I think it's important to remember how yeah, take the time also to help others, you know, if they need your help to be connected with, you know, with other group of artists. Take the time, because then in another point you will be in your life, you know, you will need it. And also just very, very good feeling to just to help others. And I think communities are made of that, people that help each other. So very, very important point to remember. Yes, I think at the moment, yeah, we definitely pass on the time, but do we have any, if we have any questions, quick ones, I'm sure we can fit them in. And otherwise, yeah, I'm looking at the chat. I think at the moment there's comments more than questions, which is good. That people are excited for, you know, for us to be connected, because also a lot of us, in a way, we met through Flux, and the socials are always a very good place for us to reconnect, even if it's virtually. You still feel the connection. So I think for me it's definitely satisfying. So thank you very much for everyone to having join us today, particularly to the speakers. Thank you very much for taking the time to sharing your expertise and your insights in what it is collaborative projects. As I was saying at the very beginning, I think collaborative projects, they are really the future of the arts, particularly in media arts. I feel they play a really important role, and particularly in these times, we need to come together more and help each other. So maybe we are gonna just finish by reminding you about our Flux next Flux event, which Oliver, I'm not sure if you're gonna, because he is going to be the one curating it. You're gonna just remind us about a little bit about what it is and when and the speakers.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, it's on the 23rd of July, and it's at 6 p.m. and we have an incredible array of speakers. Ali Hosseini, who's an artist, philosopher, and the director of the National Gallery X. We've got researcher Eike Fogh-Andersen from the National Center for Computer Animation, Evgenia Emmett, and 2 more people to be confirmed. Very exciting. So yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a really good one, I think.
Yes, and in a way, we will really appreciate your support in this one, because it's the first time we are doing this format. So we are going to be still trying to figure out how we're going to do it, but I think we're going to switch between a Zoom kind of panel conversation format and live demos with YouTube. So we are trying to see how we do the format, but hopefully it will be okay. But it'll be great to have your support for this one. And maybe just to finish, I would like to take a screenshot. So just if you're gonna be on it, just make sure you got your camera, your best pose, and then because we will publish exactly. You know, Dean, you know the way. Thank you. Because I know it's annoying, but also it's good. It's good to be in it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then I have to do 2 pages. I cannot fit you all in 1 page, guys. But you will be stitched together with Photoshop. Hey, okay. Sean, almost I catch you with the sandwich now. All right. There you go. Thank you. Nice one, guys. All the best. Yeah, stay creative.
Thank you.
Ta-ta. Oh.